Good afternoon and welcome to the May 6, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. I'll now call the meeting to order and lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the Republic, for Yahweh, for liberty and justice. All right, for Zoom webinar participation, it's available for members of the public. The Zoom webinar ID and link are available on the posted agenda on the city website. Can we please have a roll call?
Here.
Commissioner Rock?
Here.
Commissioner Mora?
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez? Commissioner Meeks? Commissioner Perno?
Here.
Chairperson McKelby Day.
Present. And we would like to formally announce Commissioner Meeks' passing. It was with a heavy heart that I share the news of the passing of Commissioner Meeks. To honor his dedicated service to the Planning Commission, we will hold a formal moment of silence and reflection at the end of our meeting. After that, we will adjourn the meeting in his honor. And just to add, Commissioner Meeks did serve the Planning Commission for at least 15 years. And I know since I've been on, he's been on and been a great guide. Now, can we have staff introductions?
Lisa Salcedo, Administrative Aide.
Courtney Grossman, Planning Manager.
Grant Leonard, Planning Manager.
All right, welcome everyone. For general public comments generally are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. The chair may further limit the time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule. Are there any comments from the public regarding items not on today's agenda? Anybody on Zoom?
No comments on Zoom.
All right, thank you. Then we'll close out public comments. Consent ID number 26-176, approval of minutes from April 15th, 2026 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Rockamora?
No questions or comments?
Commissioner Ruck?
No questions or comments.
Commissioner Mora?
Questions or comments?
Commissioner Purnell?
No questions or comments.
And I have no questions or comments. Is there a motion and a second?
I move to approve the meeting minutes from April 15th, 2026.
And I'll second.
Okay, so with a motion from Commissioner Purnell and a second from Commissioner Mora, we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Rocamora?
Yes.
Commissioner Rock?
Abstain.
Commissioner Mora?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez? Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Chairperson McKelby Day.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to administrative reports, ID number 26-193, update on pre-development activities for 34, 36, 38, 40, 37 through 39, and 45 Soledad Street in Chinatown. Grant Leonard, Planning Manager, will introduce and present this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Grant Leonard, pleased to be here and present to you an update on the city's pre-development activities in Chinatown. We're going to cover a few things today. It is a lengthy presentation, but we'll move as quickly as we can. We'll cover the background and some of the design precedent. We'll go through each specific project address, and then we will go over the schedule and the next steps. So Chinatown, as we all know, is a disadvantaged community here in Salinas, and for many years, the city has been working to revitalize Chinatown along with the property owners and the stakeholders, most recently through the 2019 Chinatown Revitalization Plan. And that took a comprehensive approach to redeveloping or revitalizing the neighborhood, and focused on safety and homelessness, infrastructure improvements, economic development, and housing. And the projects we're discussing today really focus on the last two bullet points, economic development and housing. The city has other initiatives and teams working on safety and homelessness and infrastructure. So for some background, although the plan has been to revitalize Chinatown, it has been difficult to get private sector investment in the neighborhood, given its condition. So the city has taken the lead in purchasing several properties that have been abandoned or demolished, and then in 2024, we were successful in securing a $1.5 million grant to complete pre-development work for those sites. And we selected TEF Design, they're an architectural firm from San Francisco, to complete entitlement packages through the planning entitlements for these properties. And pictured here on the top right is the current condition of 45 Soledad Street with Victory Mission in the background. And across the street is 34 to 40 Soledad Street, which is directly next to Dorothy's Place. And the other property, of course, is the Republic Cafe, which is on the other side of Victory Mission. So here's an aerial view of that same area with Soledad Street, Market Way, the Union Pacific Railroad tracks at the bottom, Dorothy's to the top right, and the Buddhist temple or Dorothy's to the top left, I'm sorry, and the Buddhist temple to the top right. And each of these properties was at one point a mixed-use development with either housing and businesses below, or just businesses in case of some of the addresses, an old gas station or a Filipino International Market, or a pool hall, or the Republic Cafe, which is one of the most famous Chinese food restaurants in Salinas. So why is the city taking this approach? There are a few main goals that the city wanted to accomplish by taking it through pre-development work before bringing on a developer. That was to complete any of the tasks that needed. So from environmental clearances to design work, planning entitlements. If there are any bumps along the way, we would be able to respond. For instance, 38 Soledad Street burned down during this process last fall. So we were able to handle that and complete the demolition. That might have been a more complicated process if we'd already had a developer on board. So that's an example of how we were able to clear those issues before a developer's involved. We also wanted to ensure that the design honored the history and the culture of the neighborhood and to engage the community in that. So they had a true voice in the process of designing these buildings. And then we wanted to ensure it was 100% affordable and that was at various income levels and at various types of units. So studios, 1-bedrooms, even 3-bedroom units. So we can have a real family neighborhood. And then commercial spaces designed for success. Oftentimes, mixed use is an afterthought. The focus is on the housing, and then the commercial space on the first floor is difficult to rent. We wanted to ensure that this was designed for success and we could have tenants see when the building is open. So on the previous slide, there was a flyer for a community event that we held. This is a photo of that event. We've had a lot of community engagement throughout this process, starting from the visioning meetings with the community, meeting with the Historic Resources Board, given the historic character of the neighborhood, meeting with developers so they can give their input on the design, make sure it is financially feasible and makes sense from a construction standpoint. And then throughout the process, we've just continued to work on costing packages and design elements. And where we are today is we have submitted packages for entitlements for 3440 and 45 and submitted building permits for 3739, but we'll get into that later. So some of the things we really focused on with TF was the design elements and making sure that we had building that reflected the nature of the community. And we'll walk through some of those. Here you'll see images from affordable housing developments throughout the state, also images from Japantowns and Chinatowns throughout the state, as well as local affordable housing examples such as the LCO complex in Monterey in the bottom right. So the designers wanted to make sure again that this was financially feasible and logical and met the standard for modern affordable housing. So these are examples of affordable housing developments throughout the state, as well as a few examples from San Francisco's Chinatown, Los Angeles Chinatown, and San Francisco's Japantown to see how those architectural elements can be weaved into the design of our buildings. So one thing that makes Chinatown unique is the blend of Spanish Revival architecture along with Asian architecture. So our design incorporates many of those elements, including tiles, and clay tile roof lines, decorative accent on the walls, and stucco finishes with warm colors. Other examples from Monterey on the right, as well as here in Salinas, the Sunrose Apartments on Soledad Street, which opened last year. Other Chinese architectural influences that were considered were distinctive railings, the use of red as an important color scheme, different design treatments for the windows, as well as the flared awnings, and also incorporation of the moon gate concept. So this is common throughout Chinese architecture as a welcoming feature, a security gate. It also contributes to wayfinding. And there are examples on the right from San Francisco to Vancouver to the Netherlands, so a very common architectural feature. And then thinking about sustainability and energy conservation, the use of sunshades, and in this case, having them be inspired through Japanese joinery techniques. And that provides a little bit of character to the building, something unique feature to them. And then not strictly part of the building, but part of its decorative element would be the use of lanterns, which are common throughout Asian cultures. And then there are several areas which lend themselves to murals. So here's an example of what those murals could look like on the buildings. And these are artworks taken from a local artist and then applied digitally to the renderings. So this is the vision for Chinatown at Soledad Street and Market Street. On the left would be the multifamily development, 6 stories with commercial on the first floor. And on the right is the senior housing, 5 stories with commercial on the first floor. Here again is sort of looking up at the development with the 38 Soledad Street, the historic Ayers Pool Hall reconstructed. So that the building was lost to fire, but we have enough documented aspects of the building that we could recreate it almost exactly to spec. And so there's a picture of what it looked like in the 40s during the heyday of Chinatown when it was a thriving business community. And here you'll see the commercial spaces in orange. The lighter orange is the lobby and office space for the apartments. And the gray areas are the first floor utility rooms and parking. On the second floor for the mixed-use family development, 3440, is the apartments, which on the left-hand side, you'll see the color schemes for studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units. And this floor also features all the open space for the building. So a second floor patio that the building wraps around, and the second story of the reconstructed 38 Soledad is the community room for the apartments. And then floors 3 through 6 are identical, so they're stacked units with a mix of studios, 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and 3-bedrooms, and laundry facilities on each floor. So in summary, you were looking at just under 6,000 square feet of commercial space, limited parking for employees or ADA access, and then 55 units divided at the bottom there between studios, 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and 3-bedrooms. And here's a rendering looking west if you were standing at the Victory Mission, and a rendering from Market Way if you were standing adjacent to the railroad tracks. 45 Soledad Street, across the street. This is a photo of the building before it burned down in 2018. Again, it had been previously a mixed-use building, but long shuttered. Again, the first floor would have retail space in orange, and then some lobby space, and the gray would be the utility area, and one ADA parking space or loading zone. The second floor features a community room as well as a classroom, Again, this is 100% senior housing, so you could have classes related to senior services, such as legal services for seniors, or et cetera, who could come in and provide services on site. And then the upper floors, again, are a stacked floor plan with a mixture of studio units and one-bedrooms. So this yields just under 2,000 square feet of commercial space, and then the 30 units divided between studios and one-bedrooms. And this is from Market Way, looking northeast, and Market Way looking north at the building elevations. Again, more opportunities for artwork to be installed, and a key feature here is that the first 2 floors are reconstructed in honor of the historic building that was lost. That's why they're a brick first 2 floors and then a modern addition on top. Of the 3 sites, the one property that still has its building remaining is the Republic Cafe, 37 and 39 Soledad Street, featured here. On the left-hand side is 37, that's the Republic Cafe, and on the right-hand side is the former Lotus Inn and Mi Cantina. This is a registered National Historic Landmark, 37 Soledad is, and given that, we did an extensive historic review of the building and determined that 39, the connected structure, is also eligible for historic designation. And these are some of the features that are really unique and still intact, although in poor condition, that help it qualify as historic, from the unique tile work to the unique awnings, the railings, the sign work. So all that is there, and it's a matter of restoring it, which is what this project focuses on. So it's a 2-phase project. The first phase is to stabilize the facade, stabilize the building, make sure it's safe from intruders, and also has a fire suppression system, given the history of fires in the neighborhood. And then watertight, as there's fire damage in the roof, so we want to take care of that. And so these would be the areas most visibly altered during this phase. These might be deconstructed and placed into storage until the second phase can begin. So while this is happening, the building will look different, but at the end of the second phase, it'll be reconstructed back to its original glory. So phase 2 is a complete remodel, interior, and bring it up to code so that it is ready for reuse as both office, commercial, and a museum space for the Asian cultural experience of Salinas. And this is a rendering of how it will look when it is brought back again to historic standards in renovation. There are floor plans for the first floor. The pink would be the museum area, and then a potential commercial area in the Meat Cantina area of 39 Soledad Street. Second floor of the museum is a mezzanine level, and that would be an area for a conference room or for storage in the rear side of the building, archival space for the museum. And then the second floor of 37 Soledad has an existing apartment from the Atai family. And so the goal is to recreate that apartment, keep it as a historic feature of the building, and then it can also be rented out as a low-income apartment, affordable housing apartment. And then on the other side, 39 in the green would be office space to be programmed at a future time. So we don't have a tenant in mind yet, but it was a former 14-room Lotus Inn, so a motel. And so you can reconfigure those rooms into office space most effectively. And then there's a small third floor of 37 Soledad, which has roof access, and again would be used for archival space for the museum. So where we are today in May, a majority of the work has been done on the design side and pre-development side. We are looking forward to finalizing our planning entitlements for 34 through 40 and 45. And again, as well as finalizing the building permits for the first phase of stabilization for 37 and 39 Soledad. And with that work being completed this quarter, we'll move into procuring a contractor for the renovations of 3739 and procuring a developer for 3440 and 45 Soledad Street. And that work is summarized here under next steps. And this has an artistic view of the aerial where you can see where the buildings will be and some of the other features, the Buddhist temple to the right and then the large gravel lots to the left, which could be an opportunity for future parking. And here's one last visual of the community looking northeast from downtown. You can see how it'll change the character of the neighborhood, change the skyline, and overall improve the community and advance the Chinatown revitalization plan. And with that, we're open for questions.
Are there any questions from the commissioners to the city staff regarding this presentation? Commissioner Rockamora?
Grant, would there be elevators in the Republic Cafe?
So as of now, we are not adding an elevator. It is to reconstruct it in its historic way, to the historic code, and adding an elevator is difficult and extremely cost prohibitive.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Ruck?
Yes, please, thank you. Couple questions here. Everything's been demolished except for what, 3739,
Correct.
which is on the National Register?
37 is, yes.
Pardon me?
37 is on the National Register and 39 is eligible to be on the National Register.
Okay. So CEQA demands that you address historical resources, yet you've asked for a CEQA exemption?
So we are following the CEQA standards. It's to the Secretary of Interior standards for renovation. And again, one of the reasons we hired TEF Design is their work with historic properties. So all their work is meeting the Secretary of Interior standards for historic renovation.
So I guess my question, though, is it's statutorily exempt or categorically exempt? Because there's a whole section in CEQA that makes you address historical resources. But I'll leave it alone, but really, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I'm going to ask another thing. The date for the temporary reconstruction, what was that? So it looked like it was starting in August.
Pending funding availability, yes, we could start this summer.
Funding. Okay, that brings up the next question. Is there funding out there for all of these, what do I want to say, for all of this?
So as with any of these affordable housing projects, we are cobbling together the funds. We have this grant, which has been fully expended for the pre-development work. We have our city Chinatown Capital Improvement Program, the CIP, which we're using to finish the work. We have various housing grants that could be used, such as community development block grants or home or permanent housing, local trust, and the PLHA, and then as well as the local housing trust fund. We're also pursuing federal earmarks and putting in, we'll see how the city's budget shapes up for the next 2 years to add additional funds to the CIP.
Okay, so just kind of putting it all together. Now I have another question. Has there been a study on the usage of the museum? We have a museum a couple blocks from here. Rarely does someone go in. What will the usage of that museum be? Will it be used? Will there be sufficient individuals visiting that museum to keep it open, to keep up the facade, to keep up the, basically maintenance and other things like that? That's a big question. Has there been a study on the potential usage of that museum by individuals?
Not to my knowledge, there's not been a facility or museum use study done.
Okay. So I guess that's it. Thanks.
Any questions, Commissioner Mora?
I'll share that I had similar concerns about the museum. I used to work at the Steinbeck Center, and so the museum world is both dear to my heart, and I'm aware of the challenges of maintaining one in a smaller community. But that being said, ACE does a beautiful job with their festival. So I know that the interest is there, that the support is there, and that we have to dream big, but also be pragmatic. So I hear you. I hear you. I really do. For my own kind of education, did the grant funding cover all of the pre-development work?
Almost.
Almost?
Mostly. We've processed a series of amendments this year as we've gotten closer to the finish line. And the grant from AMBAG, the 1.5 million, I'd say covered 90 to 95% of the costs.
That's incredible. That's great. And along the similar lines, like I know that you did a lot of stakeholder engagement, and that's kind of what led to the ground floor commercial space. And I'm just curious because would it be possible to plan for like childcare centers in that commercial space? Would that be an eligible use of that space?
Yeah, so the zoning for the area is mixed use. So if it's allowed under the zoning code, it could go into that space. It's meant to be a flexible commercial space.
Thank you. And the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because, I don't know if the city has an inventory of vacant commercial spaces, but at least like anecdotally, I can tell you, like driving around, sometimes it seems like, Northridge Mall is struggling with vacancies, and, some of the other shopping centers are similarly struggling for or to keep their commercial space filled. And yet I hear from neighbors, I don't have kids myself, but from people in the community that they're having a really hard time finding, childcare centers. And that would be great that as we continue to plan out the city's future, that we prioritize the childcare centers and places for families as well. I think I had one more question. Regarding the outreach process, it all looks incredible. It says here that you did a market study. Are those findings available online?
We haven't published them on our website, and we're currently doing website upgrades. So we certainly can add it. And it's available upon request. So.
All right, great. Thank you. That's it for me.
Questions, Commissioner Purnell?
I too share in like fiduciary anxiety with my fellow commissioners. So I think my questions really are around like the dollar amount and price tag. Do we have a realistic ballpark, or is that a fair question to ask? Because I know inflation, everything impacts kind of where we're going, but do we know end of the road if we have a number we're looking towards?
Well, we can give you a high-level estimate for the affordable housing construction. So those are averaging, statewide and in our area, $750,000 a unit. So times 88 units. It's not an overly expensive project in the world of affordable housing, but it is a considerable financial commitment, and that'll likely be funded through a tax credit program. So one thing that we worked on with the architect was to ensure that the designs met the tax credit financing authority's design requirements. So this project is essentially tailor-made for tax credit funding.
And then did these units potentially contribute to our long-term like RENA metrics that we're trying to meet?
Yep.
And then one question, I think a couple folks have actually mentioned the role of the ACES team. Are they involved in this process with you? I know when it comes to community stakeholders, like that's a nonprofit that's really invested in this space for a long time. I think especially like the Republic Cafe, we've all been talking about that for the last 40 years. Are they involved in this with you guys?
They are. They've been a key stakeholder. And when the city purchased 37 and 39, there was a condition of the sale that the city completed the renovations within 10 years and then partner with ACES on the opening of a cultural center or museum. So they're very much involved.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your presentation. I have a couple questions. They were somewhat answered, but I had a question about when you mentioned the doing the commercial space below, and you said, basically setting ourselves up for success. So where do you draw that conclusion from? Is it from their studies, or what?
Correct.
Where's that come from?
So probably best to illustrate some of the examples where it hasn't worked. Oftentimes, the commercial space won't be deep enough for a business to have a back room and storage, or just enough space for a retail component. Another factor is that tax credits don't always fund the tenant improvements on the inside, so you might see a shell on the first floor. And so we're really committed to making sure the bottom level is finished and ready for a tenant to move in. The other thing was meeting with the business community to decide, what level of space would be needed, factors into the design of the first floor, where the parking was, where the doors will go, etc.
Yeah, because it seems like the concept was introduced, I believe even from what I remember hearing about it in real estate, 20 years ago, where other countries and other bigger cities were doing this. And then we've started to follow it, but it seems like the commercial space hasn't really picked up momentum. And is that, I can, now that I'm picturing Abbott Street, it was a shell. Is that part of those challenges, like the price points are just not feasible for people to get in there? I'm just concerned like that plus the types of businesses that would be, wanting to go in there. Do you have ideas of what types of merchants you're looking for or businesses to be run in there?
So a few items came up. One on 39 Soledad Street. It has a very long historic bar, and so there's a discussion of having a juice bar or coffee bar or even a full-service bar or restaurant in there. Across the street, a common topic that came up through outreach was some sort of market, a small community market. With this project adding 88 units to the street of housing, Moongate down the street has 99 units. Around the corner, there are 3 other housing authority properties. And there's no true grocery store or market in the neighborhood. You have to walk over to further down Market Street to get to a grocery store over on Alisal Street. And so some sort of market component. And then cafe came up several times, or some sort of early activation space for entrepreneurs who are ready to move out of the home occupancy, but then maybe have a shared commercial space before they can have their own tenancy at a different spot. So it would be sort of a transitional space for small businesses.
And then that brought me to another question, because I know Dorothy's Kitchen is right there, and they work with a lot of people in recovery. So when you had said the bar, I kind of thought, not excited about that. But are you working with Dorothy's Kitchen about collaborating some of that housing? Because I know they have, they're almost double the amount of people in their program versus how many they can house somewhere properly. And when the buildings went down, I think they were like, we need, some homes. But is that really designed for their type of program, which I think is more of a dorm-like setting than it is independent living?
Well, Dorothy has certainly been involved. We've met with their executive director several times. We worked quite closely with them on the demolition after the fire. But you're absolutely right. These 2 new developments are really more suited for a large-scale affordable housing developer to come in and construct it for permanent senior housing and family housing.
Okay, and then, so when you say that, that was another question I had. It's just not clear in my mind. I hadn't been involved in a lot of the, stakeholder meetings or any of that, so I don't have a lot of the background. Maybe other people have, but when you say we're looking for a developer to come in, so the city's involved, but what is it clearly that the city is doing, and then who's coming in, and then who's running it after? I don't have a clear picture about that.
Yeah, so the city is preparing all of the entitlements and any
Okay.
of the pre-development work, like taking care of the demolition or removal of a large eucalyptus tree, etc. All that'll be done, and then the plans that you've seen will be approved through the planning level. Then the next step would be to prepare a request for proposals for a developer. Then that developer will be selected over the summer, and then they can work on any refinements to the design that they have. They can work on their financing strategy. And then ultimately, when they receive their financing, they'll move through the building permit stage, finalize it, and when they have their building permit, they'll go into construction. So the city's taken it right through the pre-development level, and then we'll bring on a developer with a development agreement, and then they'll take it from there through construction and opening.
And so when you put it out for the developers, kind of what does that process look like? And is there any kind of incentive offered for local developers?
So the process is a request for proposals. It's a form that's, this is the project, there's the address, here's the designs attached to it, and here's the schedule, and submit your proposal, and they talk about their firm and their past experience, and there's a scoring metric. I don't know if we have a local preference for affordable housing developers. We do in some other cases. But that being said, typically you often see the local affordable housing developers bid on these. So in our case, that would be Housing Authority of Monterey County, CHISPA, other firms that have local offices like Eden Housing. And then we might have firms from outside of the area, given the unique nature of this with the historic element and the cultural element.
Yeah, I just feel like community-wise, it would, if you have local developers, I mean, they're more vested because they're not just vested in looking at the dollar figure. It's more about really knowing our community and wanting to be a part of it and continue to be a part of it. So I thought if we can offer some kind of incentive, not, say, I mean, it just would be ideal for us as a community to have people that are local involved in the follow-through. And so the developer, when they come, it's just up to them if they continue to run it, or that would be part of the expectation that's put out,
Continue to run it?
like the management of the properties.
Yes, correct. So it depends on the developer. Most of them would manage it in-house, like Mid-Penn Housing or Housing Authority for Monterey County or CHISPA. They have a property management wing as well as a development wing. But I'm sure there are developers out there who are more just on the construction side and then sub out the property management.
Okay. And let me just glance if I was thinking of the other question I had was, what, I'm sure it's been considered, but has there been any plan or assumed plan in place for the surrounding, so right now, we know it's there, so you're going to push people out that are, unhoused right now, and what's the plan for where they go next? Or are we just going to look across the street and still see them piled up now on top of each other because we pushed them out of areas they used to be occupying?
Yeah, so they mentioned in the beginning, it's a multifaceted approach to revitalizing Chinatown, and we have a separate approach for homelessness. For instance, we've in recent years opened the city's first homeless shelter, the Share Center, in partnership with Monterey County. Other service providers are looking to continue providing service in the city, maybe at a different location, so it's not as concentrated in Chinatown. Victory Outreach, for instance, Victory Mission is looking to relocate but continue to provide service. Dorothy's as well has talked about relocation, but continuing to provide service. So there'll still be services for the homeless. It's just maybe less concentrated in one neighborhood.
Okay, but has it been anticipated that if you push them out, they're going to be going where?
Well, I
It's
think
like when we do a sweep, we see what happens.
Well,
And
that's-
everybody complains because now they're in front of businesses and they don't really have anywhere to go. So the ones you described, they're good, but they're only touching the surface of what the need is out there.
So on the homeless services side, the city has partnered with the Housing Authority and the County Behavioral Health to bring forward permanent supportive housing at Fairview, which will be opening this month. So that's 45. We're still working to hold on to the second home key site at the Goodnight Inn. Still trying to see if we can keep those units in line. And we are collaborating with the county to apply for encampment resolution grant number 5, which would facilitate the renovation of the El Rey Motel, not to be confused with the theater, El Rey Motel on West Market, to provide a low barrier navigation center. Because in many cases, the first step is making that transition off the street and then getting in a stabilized environment where then there can be the connection with resources, including housing navigation. So, and we're also looking at the prevention side through our rental assistance program. So it's multi-pronged, and we recognize that we're going to have to keep chipping away at it, and that time will come where those individuals will need a place to go, or else they'll just be
Yes,
dispersing to
definitely.
another place. So that is definitely acknowledged, and we're working at it.
Thank you. And Let me see. Well, I saw the lanterns, and that's kind of what brought to mind, because right now I've been down there at times, and I mean, people come and feed the homeless, and there's just trash, and there's trash just blowing everywhere. And I just pictured when I saw the picture of the lanterns, them just being ripped apart and blowing everywhere. So I think some of the design elements, I like them, but, you know, maybe being mindful of things like that, that we think they look nice in the beginning, and then like things like trees. It's a beautiful tree when we first plant it, and then it becomes this horrendous thing that's causing issues. So it's my only kind of add is mindful of those design techniques. Sometimes a little less is better. You know, adding things we can maintain and keep up with. But, you know, thank you for your presentation. We will now go out to public comment. Are there any comments from the public regarding this item? Welcome.
Oops. Hello. My name is Daniel Alvarez. I represent the carpenters on the Santa Cruz and Monterey County. And a lot of the co-workers that I work with, they have to commute all the way to the Bay Area. So I encourage anyone involved in building this project to use a responsible contractor. So that way a lot of people living here can also work here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And do we have any public comment on Zoom? Teresa's checking for us. It was hidden, you scooted it to the corner. There we go.
There's no comments in Zoom.
Okay, no raised hand on Zoom, so we'll go ahead and close public comment. Are there any additional questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Rockamora.
Just a comment. Just want to answer some of the questions that they talked about ACE and the museum. So I sit on the executive board of ACE, so that's why I didn't really say so much. ACE is basically, my understanding is renting the Republic Cafe. So that's what we talked about. As for a museum, this is going to be, I know you talk about museum in general. This museum is basically, we're trying to preserve the history of Chinatown. So that's what this is basically about. So you're going to see a lot of artifacts and everything from the Chinatown when it first started. Just like the city owns the Calesa that was donated by Cebu, Philippines, and it's in storage right now. And our plan is to bring that into the museum. Okay, and we do have a team right now putting it together, a museum team that's putting it together and seeing what we're going to do. And I'm not sure if anybody knows that ACE does have an office/museum in the Moongate Plaza, so it's on the corner. So, you know, this is something that they thought about for a long time, of getting a museum, and now we're getting that opportunity, and we're real excited about bringing that out and having people see it. And as for the decor, like I know the chair said, you know, she's worried about the lanterns, but the Filipino community, I could tell you, was always being, I guess, a lot of homeless were there. But since we remodeled it, now we don't get that many homeless people. And you don't see that anymore. If you've gone by there, there's a lot of changes at the Filipino community. So everybody, when we first started doing the landscape, people were pulling, you know, all the plants. Now it's getting real nice, and people are not pulling them because they see that we're looking after it and we're taking care of it. And I think in Chinatown, when we start redoing it, if it comes out like the way it is, I think it's going to be a nice place to go. And I think, you know, the homeless won't be hanging out there because it's going to be a nice place. But like I say, if you get a chance before this museum's built, if you get a chance, go by Moongate Plaza and see our museum there. We have some artifacts there, and we have most of it stored. That's the difference between a regular museum and this museum going up. We just want to make sure we preserve the history of why that Chinatown was built. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ruck?
Yeah, just a comment. I think the museum's a good idea. I just want people to visit it. I know Chinatown has a very rich history in the city of Salinas, and it should be incorporated. It just should be. I just want people to visit it and know that it's there and be able to access it and things like that. And I want to thank you for your presentation. Thank you very much for detailing all of this. And that's it.
All right, Commissioner Mora?
I'll echo those sentiments and say that this is really exciting, actually, and I think this is the city at its best, investing in a part of town that private development has not done so themselves, right? And it's an area that could use a lot of love. And I used to work at the Steinbeck Center. I used to look out that way, and it always felt like stuck in time. You know what I mean? And it was both beautiful and a little bit sad. You know what I mean? Beautiful because it reminded you of like the history of what once was, especially before the structures burned. But also sad because it was so close to the heart of the city, and it felt so incredibly disconnected from the progress that's been made to redevelop downtown. Again, I'm not that old, but in my own life, I have seen downtown get so much better. So many cool businesses are there. There's like real life in downtown Salinas now, and I look forward to the day where Chinatown will experience that same kind of vibrancy.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Purnell?
Again, I think it's a beautiful project, and I think we're all super excited about it. Just to acknowledge how powerful and beautiful our local history is, I think especially rich in that Chinatown area. Also acknowledging too that our unhoused residents are part of our community as well and need to be provided like dignity throughout the process. And if it's available for more of the community engagement activities to get an invite, I would love it. I don't think I got any of them, but we all are obviously very passionate about it. So I think it would be fun to be able to sit in that space too. If you ever do another one, I'd love to be invited. Thank you.
All right, now, and I thank you too for the presentation again. And I did remember one other question I had. So when we're looking at where the Republic Cafe is, there's a vacant lot next door. Is there any plans for that or thoughts?
Yes, that plot of land is actually being considered by Dorothy's Place for new housing, for transitional supportive housing.
Okay, that would be awesome, yeah. That's usually, we do our immunization clinic out there for the homeless through Rotary, and that's usually where we set up. So like, we have to find a new place, which is a good thing, because yeah, we'll really, lift up that community and, and hopefully get, like they're saying, to have our homeless in somewhere that, is safe and, and nurturing for them. So anyway, that was all I had. Thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, public hearings. ID number 26-195, Plan Unit Development Permit 2025-003, PUD 2025-003, and Conditional Use Permit 2025-025, CUP 2025-025. Request to construct 88 affordable multi-family housing units with a 4,335 square foot daycare center located at 200 Casantini Street in the residential high-density flood overlay R-H-2.1-F zoning district. This item has been continued to the May 20th Planning Commission meeting. And moving on to considerations, we have none. And then commissioner comments, reports. So commissioners have an opportunity to share anything, generally limited to about 3 minutes. If there's anything going on in their areas or would like to report out. Commissioner Rockamora?
Yeah, I just want to report on the past Saturday we had the past event we had at the Asian Cultural Experience, Asian Fair, Cultural Fair. It was a great turnout at all three communities. We probably had the most. We've seen at the Chinese Confucius Center there. There's a lot of people there, and then also at the Buddhist temple, and of course, at the Filipino community, we always have a lot of entertainment there, and I could say that we had standing room only once entertainment came out. I want to say also we were lucky to get the new Philippine Consul General. He did attend, and he got to see our community, our Filipino community, and I brought him to the opening, and he said it was very well attended, and he's excited to come to the next one.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner Ruck?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Mora?
I'll make a kudos to the Salinas Public Library. There was some viral article in the New York Times, and a friend sent it to me, and it's like, it's behind a paywall. And I had the joy of sharing with them that like you can go to the Salinas Public Library page and get a code to, access the New York Times. And it's so wonderful that our library is able to provide those resources for our community. So if you haven't checked out our libraries recently, there's something there for everyone. It's not just books, it's online resources. If you're a resident of the city of Salinas, you can also get a library card for the Monterey County Free Libraries and get even more free online resources. I read, I'm on a cooking journey, I'm not very good, but there's like cooking magazines that you can subscribe to, you can look at online, and all you need is your library card ID. You just enter the numbers and it gives you access to all of these great resources. So kudos to the Salinas Public Library.
Interesting, thank you. Commissioner Purnell?
Just really quickly, too, wanted to acknowledge Commissioner Rockamore and his team. The event this past weekend was beautiful, and I think it makes projects like this even more exciting, knowing the potential that's already there. So I imagine something like that 10 years, 15 years down the road with that beautiful space. So thanking the team for putting that together and the city for allowing that to happen.
All right, thank you. And then I had a sad, along when Commissioner Purnell was mentioning getting invited, I have signed up on the website for those emails, and so I get a lot of that now, where I was kind of lost before, and I don't even know if the city was really doing it, but I've really noticed this last year, just constant, there, if you're not on social media, at least sign up for the email, so you can see it, throw it in your calendar. But I believe we do have something coming up for, is it tomorrow? There's a meeting that I did want to mention, just about the new intermodal center. Visions for it, is it tomorrow?
That's correct. On Monday, May 11th
that's
at
right, May
5:30 here in the Rotunda, there'll be a community workshop on the Salinas train station, the Intermodal Transportation Center. Opportunities to enhance the space, activate the space, and some discussion of some of the long-range transportation planning for it, with the commuter rail as well as Monterey Salinas Transit.
All right, yeah, thank you, because I mentioned to Grant, I said, I saw in the verbiage, it said, and planning, and I said, well, whenever somebody sees planning, they see, ooh, planning commission's going to be there, and I'm like, we weren't invited. So I was kind of trying to ask that, but it's the public perception versus what this was really about. It is a community, a meeting, and, that the community can get involved. And we're just curious to know what's going on and, what are the updates. So that was mine. And then I did want to take a few minutes if anybody would like to say anything about Commissioner Meeks. I'd been in contact with him through his journey, with his cancer, and he was positive in his outlook and really felt like he would be at this meeting today. So it was hard to hear the news, that he had passed. But I've appreciated him because when I came on the commission, of course, he right away, nominates me for vice chair or chair, however we were doing it. And I'm like, I barely got here. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. He's just like, I just don't want to have to serve again. And I was like, how long have you been on here? And at that time, it was like 10 years. So I just thought it was kind of cool to have somebody that had been here for a long time, because a lot of the commissioners were new when I came on as well. And just having somebody with that, history and the knowledge and being a longtime resident of Salinas, he just had that kind of input, that I think is unfortunate that, we won't have that. Like when you mentioned, you're not very old, we're all, kind of growing through this, and Courtney's like, I think one of our elders in the planning now, to look up to, but I just appreciated him, and even through his journey, he just always tried to stay positive, and, I will really miss him. So, anybody else like to say something?
I had the pleasure of serving them twice. So basically, when I sat on the Planning Commission back in 2019, I got to serve with them and I got to know them. And it's great to see the diversity here that we have. Unlike, our city council, where, we're trying to get more diversity on the board. And on the council, just like the planning commission here, you're hearing it from all different communities here, and this is what's great. Everybody's represented here. I may be Filipino over Filipino, but we do represent the Asian community. But it's great to see everybody there, and same with John. It was great to see him. Like when I first came back, he goes, "Oh, you're back," and it was great to see him. And then hearing that he had cancer was really disheartening and stuff. But hearing his loss, it does hit you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
I just wanted to acknowledge Commissioner Meeks as well. I think one of my frustrations when I had moved here, like in my 20s, being really excited, ready to incite revolution and do all kinds of things in the community, it's hard to find elders to kind of take you under their wing and mentor you. And I think Commissioner Meeks has been a longstanding advocate and voice for this community since he's been here. And he's in the East Side, and I always loved hearing his perspective. And I promise to always talk about parking and sidewalks in his honor. His advocacy. He was one of those people in this community. You knew him everywhere. He knew everyone and everything, and that's the special thing about Salinas. I think we moved here, or I did at least. I've never left because of people like Commissioner Meeks. So, just to acknowledge his mentorship and just the quality of the human being that he was always here. I think he only missed maybe 2 or 3 meetings, and he had a pretty good excuse to miss.
Yeah, and that was just recently. Yeah.
So just wanted to acknowledge him as a hero in our community because he's done so much work for decades.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Is it okay for someone on the staff?
Sure.
So I've been doing the Planning Commission orientations for I don't know how long, and I don't remember doing his. So either it was that long ago or it was someone else. And I'm thinking around 2005 or something is when I kind of started getting into this role. But his attendance, as stated by Commissioner Purnell, incredible. Always, you could count on him showing up to meetings. His communication style, extremely straightforward. You always knew where you stood with Commissioner Meeks, and I like that. I thought that was a good thing. His sense of humor, really good. I appreciated working with him, and I'll never forget him, and he'll be missed.
Thank you.
I too would like to express my appreciation for his commitment to service. I did not have the opportunity to work with him at the same extent as others, but I appreciate, he had a sparkle in his eye. He really did. And he was always asking, how I was doing. And he just showed up, and he was present, and he spoke what was on his mind. I appreciated his directness. I appreciated his sense of humor. And you don't see that level of commitment and dedication to service and bringing others along. And so he's a real missed asset in this community.
All right, thank you. And so we'll close out the meeting in a moment of silence in his honor. And this meeting is adjourned.